Hey everyone, wherever you are, hope you're having a wonderful week so far. We had the latest episode of the Inside Crypto Show, interviews and discussion with regular people just like yourselves. Today we are joined by Rex, the game lead of Blood Vessels, and having the honor of being the first game lead on our show. Blood Vessels is unlike any project Kongregate has ever undertaken. It is a game that combines NFT technology with their ability to create strong communities and weave interesting stories. Everyone should be familiar with Kongregate. They're one of the most popular sort of online gaming platforms. I'm so happy that Rex is here. Before we get started, I have to do the usual disclaimer. Anything said by either Rex or myself does not constitute financial advice. Our opinions are our own and are not to be connected with our respective organizations. Everyone, please do your own research. Because it's just Rex on the show today, we have some time. We get to talk about his background before we dive into the crypto and NFT stuff. Rex, welcome. Thank you so much for getting off work and doing a podcast.
Thank you. Yeah,
Tell us about yourself.
cool. So I'm Rex. I am the game lead of the one of Kongregate's first tips into the NFT world, Blood Vessels. So I was part of incepting it. I have been pushing it along to launch, and I'm really excited to getting close to the mint date at the end of this month. I'm also very excited about launching the narrative gameplay story that comes with it that plugs into our Discord. So having a vampire lets you play the narrative Discord story in the Discord. But you asked about my background, right?
Correct.
Awesome. So I have been at a Kongregate for a very long time, almost 10 years, and had different roles. I worked on the CCGs, worked on some idle games, and now I'm working in the NFT space. So I'm excited to work with and see where we go with this technology, because I think there's a lot of applications to be made with players and games being found in games, like using your digital goods for something, leveling them up, using them as assets. Yeah, I'm excited about that stuff.
I'm excited as well. You mentioned CCGs. For people who are not into gaming, like I would imagine Rex and I are, CCGs are collectible card games. People know Hearthstone, people know Magic, the Gathering in real life, of course. Rex, so like you said, you incepted this. So were you the person within the organization, Kongregate, or like, oh my God, I'm the crypto NFT guy, and you were like pushing this, or was it other people?
Yeah, no. Blood Vessels came about in a very unique way as we were exploring the space and reaching out. Our sister game, Bitverse, the Bitverse was starting to grow, but we wanted to start working a little bit faster. And so we were reviewing things that our organization was interested in. And over the pandemic, we had found a lot of communication from hanging out after work and playing Dungeons and Dragons and similar role-playing games over the tabletop simulator or something else. And so there was a lot of people that were into this, and we talked a bit about it. It's like, can we do this? Can we try and replicate this? And so Blood Vessels came from this. This was fun. Can we create the same sort of digital space that tells where players are owning their characters and participating in these stories and shaping their stories and shaping their futures? And that's crazy. That's like MMO stuff, right? If you were to really look at it, if you were to create a video game like that's much, much larger than possible, what could we do faster? What could we do cool? And so that's where Blood Vessels came about. It is a tabletop role-playing inspired sort of game where the players or the people who have vampires assume the role of their vampires, and they can use their vampires within narrative stories that appear within our Discord. And so these stories, they rely on the community to interact with them. They're going to rely on the community to help direct them, because one of the things we want to do as we develop the game is give the players more choice, give the players more opportunity to grow, to make their vampires cooler, and to shape Blood Vessels, the world of Blood Vessels, which we'll touch on in a little bit, to really shape it and choose the direction it goes in. So it's tricky because we're trying to come up with this whole thing, but we also can't touch it too much because we're waiting for players to come in and tell us where they want to see the lines, where they want to see the colors, and where they want to see it all filled in. So we're working with the players and users we have now and getting a good idea of that stuff. I'm very excited for the launch.
Me too as well. Like you've mentioned a couple of things. I had a look at the Blood Vessel site, and on the site it mentions Discord, but as you explain, I'm like, oh, it's integrated into the Discord, and I want to touch on that more later. One thing I do want to bring up as well is, like, again, you being a gamer, me being a gamer, I've been working in crypto for the last year, started in crypto in 2017. It's so sad because I'm so passionate about what NFT tech, blockchain tech can bring to gaming, but you must have seen, like, there was NFT NYC ride, there were people protesting outside. Like, how do we get gamers on board? Because I do a gaming podcast and I'm like, hey guys, like NFTs are cool. And my other two co-hosts are like, no, dude, sorry, we can't just get on board with this. Is there a plan at Kongregate to maybe shift people's perception of NFT gaming? How do you plan to onboard people
Yeah.
into the space?
Yeah, it's a great point. I think obviously the biggest one is the most obvious appeal of all of the blockchain stuff when it comes to owning your own digital goods, right? This is stuff that is in my wallet and it's mine. And unless I follow a fishy link or something, it's going to stay there. Or I forget my password. It's all going to stay there. It's going to be mine, right? So if my game that I put money into goes away, I get to keep my assets now. Hasn't existed yet. If I played Fortnite and I loved Fortnite, I had tons of skins, and this will never happen. You know, it'll happen in the far future. But if Fortnite decided to close its doors, that's it. All that time and money I put into it, all those assets go away. But if I actually own those assets, being able to take them into different games, being able to have that feeling, have that thrill of collecting and being able to play, and this make it try and sound juvenile, but being able to take my toys into different places, being able to take my things into different games to see how they act, to see how they move. That's what's exciting to me. When the Blood Vessels vampires become important on another game as well as mine, this is even more exciting than a normal purchase in a game, right? This is something I'm buying that is now useful in multiple places, and that's exciting. So I think as soon as that's proven, like in a fun way, as soon as you can really show people that, and it becomes like a duh, like I know this is good, but we have to get to that point. And so Blood Vessels is a very like a version of that, where we're trying to create a story game where the players have characters that are representative of video game characters almost. They have like game stats, strength, agility, willpower, intelligence, those things. So those things that do actually impact the way that the dice hit the table, digital dice hit the table. Because in Blood Vessels, players roll digital dice based on those attributes of their vampire. And so rarer vampires, bigger strength, bigger intelligence. The rarest vampires having like increased versions of all of those things. So yeah.
That's cool. And I want to hammer away a point at that is again, probably like me, we've spent money on skins and been playing Warhammer games on Steam, and they have Blood Angel skin or something like that, or Hearthstone, where I spend $50 an expansion 4 times a year, and when eventually Blizzard decides, okay, this isn't making money anymore, they're going to shut it down. That is the advantage of NFT stuff, like you said, ownership, take it with you.
Yeah, utility. And even it would be cool if you could buy that skin or that sword, and that sword, maybe it's not even a sword in a different game, but that sword gives you an advantage, like just even having one in your wallet. It's an obvious moment once it's easy for players to engage with, and it makes sense. And I think we have yet to find a game that does that well, or like a game that does that well has yet to hit, right? Like no one has breaking through that wall just yet. And I think Blood Vessels is trying to at least pierce through it a little bit, cut in a bit, show what can be done, create a community-based game, a community that's excited about the game we're making, and prove that you can make some cool small things at the start, even before you get to more advanced things, actual card games, actual adventure games. You can do small stuff that have application that get people excited, that still classify as games.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, Rex, I know we've been running around it. I want to ask one last question before we dive into you explaining what Blood Vessels actually is and the story and the background. I always ask this to guests. We are a crypto show. What got you into crypto?
Yeah, that's a great question. Let me think. So what got me into it certainly is what we talked about, trying to find ways to apply it to games. Even before that, when crypto was just starting to be talked about and floated and approached as a game thing, it was how could we make cool games that require turn by turn, like a civilization style thing that could check with the blockchain. And that's how it like turns, but it's actually massively multiplayer, but it's massively multiplayer in this order book. And it's like Excel civilization. So like actually sitting down and plotting out, this is like years, 2 or 3 years before now, just thinking about like before we even considered these other methods and applications. So I think those are probably my earliest and most engaging, because it was like, it's going to be an interesting tech. We're going to figure out how to use it. We haven't figured it out yet. I think like we've just started to like figure that stuff out. It's very exciting.
Ooh. Nice. I like that answer. All right, Rex, our listeners, it's been 11 minutes already. Tell us about Blood Vessels. People watching the YouTube video are looking at pictures that I pulled off the internet. What is Blood Vessels?
Blood Vessels. And I talked about it a bunch already. I'm sorry. I'm
No
so
worries.
excited about this. Blood Vessels is a game in Chicago during the turn of the century. It takes place during the World Columbian Exposition, World's Fair. So it is the World's Fair. It's a huge deal at the time. 30 years prior, the city had burned down. The Chicago fire had eaten a huge chunk out of the city. And in real life history, it's interesting. There's a lot more fires across the Midwest that night, in Michigan and in Wisconsin. In Wisconsin, another city burned down entirely. And so there's some fun fringe theory about what might have happened. Maybe it was a meteor cascading. Who knows? All we know is that after the fires, vampires began to appear in Chicago. It was slow. It was a slow, steady thing. But some people who disappeared or died during the fires didn't actually disappear or die. They rose back up. And so these are the characters that the players embody within the game. These two vampire types, which are Apex, the very human-esque, the Bela Lugosi, the Edward Cullens, the attractive vampires, right? And then there are the hybrids, the nasty-looking ones that have outward mutations with tusks or growths or see-through skin. And so these two vampire types, they live with each other within Chicago. And the idea is that the fire happens and they figured out what's going on. And now, 30 years later, we start with the World Columbian Exposition, the Chicago World's Fair. And that's where the players begin. That's where the story begins. Because we want the players to take these roles, these vampire roles, interact with the story, make some choices, and eventually come to a big decision in the game, which is, do we reveal ourselves to the world or not? And then we'll continue working from there. That's the narrative crux, pulling the players into this dark, shadowy underworld full of weird monsters and hopefully some cool gameplay and interesting stories. It'll really sing once we develop more mechanics for the game, more utility. It's going to start with narrative-based gameplay where the players will see like a narrative passage with a roll button underneath. Hitting the roll button will look at your vampire stats. So if it says like an agility 2 test, it'll look at your agility. So if your agility is 5, you'll roll 5 dice. If it's 1, you'll roll 1 die. This is all taken care of in a Discord bot. So if this sounds a little confusing, I'm sorry, but it's all taken care of under the hood and shown to you in a really compact way. Once the players have done that enough or hit a certain success or failure threshold, the next part of the story will revealed. And so that's how we'll get through the opening stories of the game. But I hope by that decision point, we'll have a lot more utility, a lot more interesting little gadgets and toys and mechanics for the vampires to plug into. So yeah, that's Blood Vessels in a nutshell.
That's cool and a really good explanation. I would highly encourage anyone at this point to not go to the Blood Vessel site just yet. Wait until the end of the show, until Rex is done speaking. There's a lot more explanation on there. And you answered some of my questions. I was like, how are you guys going to do the dice roll? And Discord bot makes a lot of sense. Are you guys going for I'm not sure if you're familiar with this, Rex, like a Fallen London vibe or Sunless Sea, those big narratives?
Yeah, that's a really interesting call out. And obviously you are a gamer because I have yet to have anybody make that sort of call out. Yeah, I think Fallen London is a good sort of comparative. It's an interesting story game that is very popular, has a large community, has a weird sort of storyline, is a cult in its own following. And I think we're trying to do that with Blood Vessels. We're trying to create a genuine weird world with the players and with the way that we can have the vampires interact with the story and the players. I don't want to say we haven't gotten to staking mechanics yet. There are no staking mechanics, literally and metaphorically yet. But the way the players will take their vampires to vote for things to change the world are the things I'm excited for. That invite us to create for them and then eventually create for each other. Because that is the other dream of this, is to get tools to the players, to get tools to people who have vampires that also allow them to create their own stories. So it's not just us telling you how it happens. It'll eventually be, since you have a piece of this world, you should run a piece of this world if that's something you're interested in. But that's all in the future. Right now, story games, narrative story games, an exploration of these vamps, and a kind of like exclusiveness around our first drop, trying to keep it small.
Rex, like, you sound like a fantastic storyteller. Are you someone who's been involved in the writing of the stories up to this point, or is there someone else on the team?
Yeah, it's been me and a few other people. We actually, if you're interested in the game, I advise you check out the Discord as well, because we run a community-based story right now called Seeing Red. It's voted on Discord. So yeah, you can see some of the flavors of what we're going for, or check out our medium. We just ran a small live game on YouTube that kind of mimics the tabletop role-playing experience where the vampires have to go investigate the Chicago stockyards, which is a very strange place. So yeah, we're very excited to keep creating more stories, to keep pushing the plot forward. If the users choose to let humanity know if vampires exist, like, that's an entirely different story. That's a different 19th century, 20th century than the one we had. Yeah.
Okay, nice. Another question I had is like why you guys are Kongregate, right? Okay. I'm sorry, I'm a bit fanboyish when it comes to you guys. Why Discord? Like, why not do it through Kongregate or through some sort of graphical interface? And
That's a great question. So with Blood Vessels, it was speed, it was interesting, and it was an experiment. Like, there's Blood Vessels is very much its own weird sort of thing that kind of grew, and it's I'm going to make sure it finishes growing. And I'd love to create something that later ties into the website, that later ties into Kongregate.com, that is more gamey, more something you would interact with at Kongregate.com with your vampire. That would be a dream. But because Blood Vessels is such a strange new thing, and because it was before we even got to that point, it was like, this is where it came, this Discord, this community. But we're working on ways to fold it all together so it all makes sense. I'm very excited about that stuff.
me too. So it's not going to be like the typical crypto experience where I go to Kongregate.com, connect my MetaMask, switch to ImmutableX, and then start playing Blood Vessels, right? It's
Not just yet. No, not just yet. There won't be that flow. Although Kongregate has some pretty cool stuff in the hopper for the future.
sweet.
Can't talk about it just yet. Yeah.
No worries. I mentioned ImmutableX. Like there are so many solutions. We got to go a little bit crypto here. Why did you guys go with ImmutableX as opposed to like Solana with Star Atlas or Illuvium? Yeah, why ImmutableX?
Yeah, and this is so I am very much the game lead. So I can tell you that IMX was very interested in what we were doing and what we've been thinking about at Kongregate. And I think there was just a really good interlocking of gears and meeting of minds. And oh yeah, this all makes sense together. So unfortunately, I don't think I can give you a better answer, except that I think they liked what we were doing and we liked what they were offering and the sort of support that they were willing to give us and help out. And it was just seemed a good match. So
Nice.
that's where we're at now. Yeah.
One of the things I know, I've spoken to a few devs on the podcast before, is integrating blockchain into gaming, however simple, however difficult it is, has been hard. Like for the people you're working with, for the devs, have they had a bit of a difficulty? Has it been fun? Has it been interesting? What's the feeling about doing this integration?
Yeah, it's been interesting because it's been an entirely new beast, right? This is a new technology, a new integration, a new thing under the hood, but it also has a lot of familiar technology under it too, right? It's all everything old is new again, everything new is old again, and it just keeps cycling. So I do think like Blood Vessels was a really interesting project because it was moving so quick at the start of the year, and as its inception, as it rolled, we developed a lot of our technology for that as we moved forward. So it's been interesting to talk with the engineers to get the different like lowdowns on more technical things that I'm qualified to talk about, the way contracts are handled, the way certain tokens can be. It's been a very fun experience. It's been a huge growing effort and a really fun knowledge dive, digging into tons of resources, seeing things change on the weekly. Yeah, it's been good.
Nice. Nice. One of the things I do want to point out is, right, I did notice you guys are minting, I believe, on October 26th, according
Yep.
to the site. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how that minting is going to work?
Yeah, on our website on the 26th, you'll be able to pick up a vampire. And so we are only going to have 250 vampires available for sale for the first sale. We're keeping it small. And I think we're keeping it around $100 to $200 USDC. So last time I checked was like 0.07 to 0.14. Although I don't know if that is still probably not enough time of listening. That'll have changed in some interesting, fun ways. But yeah, we're going to do our sale on the 26th. 250 vampires in the initial pool. So we're going to drop those, and then shortly after, the gameplay will become available. We're hoping to get a demo up sooner, so check out our Discord throughout October, because I would like to get that set up. Players can already visit our Discord and create a beta vampire so they can see the kind of stats you get and roll some dice. Doesn't do anything right now, but it shows you the tech we're going for, and the tech will grow out of this.
Nice.
Yeah, so October 26th. Yeah, it's going to be fun.
And bringing up some of the blockchain, there's a very famous game on Polygon called Avagachi, this cute little ghosts. And they have, exactly like you guys, they have a limited number of actual Avogachis. They recently launched like a spectator mode where you can jump into the world and watch. And you guys already have this on your Discord server where even if I'm like really big into blood vessels, I don't get to make the mint date and time exactly. I don't get a vampire, but I can still enjoy the world and the story, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I mean, we've discussed different ways to do this. Ideally, it's owning a vampire will be your key into the gameplay. How opaque we make that wall in between is still something we're figuring out. Obviously, if you're into blood vessels but you can't have a vampire, I want to keep you in the community. I want to keep you like into it. We'll figure out a way to get you on later, or figure out a way to get you into the story, even if you weren't part of this first sale. But being part of this first sale means you are part of the Elder Council. You'll be helping us shape the world. You'll be probably helping new players as they come in, if that's something you're into. And you'll have another stake joke, a stake in the world as we move forward. Yes, it's rough. It's rough when it's staking and burning. Vampires are very good at doing both of those things. So we should figure out mechanics that utilize that. Yeah.
Nice. I'm like so all over the place with these questions, but it's such a natural flow. I also want to ask you, like, when it comes to the art inspiration, Rex, I'm not sure if you're familiar. Like, where did this come from? It's such a unique style. Like, looking at it, I live in Taiwan. Japan is in the north. We have such a huge Japanese influence here. It looks Japanese with some of the like the flowers and the art, but at the same time, it looks like it's a very unique style. Why did you guys go for this style when it came to blood vessels?
Yeah, the art style was something that we really dug deep in for. The goal was not to make something too video game. We didn't want to make a CCG card or something that looked not gaming, but interesting, an art piece, an actual art piece. And so we spent 2 to 3 months at the start of this year just trying different styles, trying different methods, looking at different combinations, and then actually settling on what stuff we liked and how we can get an interesting variety of like avatars and art without making it look too samey, but also giving everybody their own unique vampire. And that's what's cool, is that all the vampires that we create, they're really one of one. Like the art assets you get, there's no other combination of vamps with that stuff. That's really just yours. So that's cool. How do we get to the art style? Like I said, all over the place. I think we sourced images from the time, this sort of the turn of the century America, looking at what the people in the big cities wore, in Chicago wore, and then trying to find art that helped underline the weirdness of the setting. You'll notice some of the Apex have a weird aura around them, whilst the hybrids have the kind of nastiness. I wanted to create vampires that appealed to people who are fans of the attractive, sexy vampires, and people who are a fan of the ugly, nasty vampires, because I'm a fan of both. And I'm hoping with this game that we're ringing a bell that's like, hey, look at this. This is kind of stuff that, like, there are people, there are genuine humans interested in the stuff that you're into, and they're creating projects that mirror that stuff. Can you come? Do you want to come in and help? Do you want to come in and be part of a new community and be part of something kind of new? And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting story in a few years, all of this, to see where we're at with community building, with where NFTs are used and how they're considered, and how even our transactions in stores will probably come with a receipt we can redeem for a digital version of the thing that we have, or vice versa, which already happens now, but it's going to be more commonplace. And getting in early on that is going to feel special. And I'm hoping that Blood Vessels, the community we're building, is meant to be that sort of like that sort of community early. Yeah.
Rex, so you mentioned just 250 initially. Do you have a plan to release more, or is there like a set amount, like once you hit 1,000 vampires, that's it? Or at the moment, just 250, you're just going to see how it goes?
I think 250 right now is where we're at. We do have more vampires in the crypt. 250 is where we want to start with this kind of exclusive sale. Try to see what happens, how players react to it, what kind of stories we start seeing, if it's worth opening the crypt up a little bit more and letting more people in and down. I want to make sure that the people who are into this project are into this project and want to work on it. As a small team doing the writing. And so having the community in there, having the community be creators, having the community developing that world is going to be exciting to the point where I fade in the background, and it's a real city kind of creating itself, right? Ideally, but that's the future. Like you said, 250. We want to see we want to make sure that the vampires get in first, and that they're the kind of people that are pumped to hang out.
It's really cool. As we were talking, I'm like thinking, do you foresee like a possibility once you have some like maybe more active community members? Do you see you guys doing like a critical role-esque YouTube stuff, right? With
Yeah,
people and doing video stuff, and I'm like, oh, and you're doing this live, so I'm like, that would be so cool. Like it's to see this live combined with the art, and people can like role play actually and dress up. That would be even better. But is that a possibility in the future?
yeah, I can even, it's funny that you bring that up. I can send you a link, but we actually did a live stream game. Nobody cosplayed because we're all and we did our role playing for an hour, but we have to go back to work. But I love the idea, and something we've talked about is doing the full costuming. Yeah, we did a session. We're going to do another one 6th and then another one the 21st.
Ooh, nice.
And yeah, there's 4 sort of pictures on screen that represent the 4 players, and you can see their stats. And then there's an arbiter box in the middle, which is what we call our dungeon masters or our storytellers or our game guides, game referees. And that box changes with different NPCs, and we have the different art. But yeah, it would be really cool to get that sort of thing running. It would be really cool if players wanted to hop in and do that stuff, because if you have the vampire, it probably means you're already on this project. So why not keep making cool stuff for it?
I totally agree. And please send me those links. Since we're on the subject of links, Rex, is there anywhere people can follow you on Twitter besides congregate.com, of course, and Blood Vessels? I'll put all the socials there. Or would you prefer people just to follow Congregate and Blood Vessels exclusively?
Yeah, you can, let me check. You can definitely follow me at Arbiter Rex on Twitter,
Publisher
and
Rex.
then at Blood Vessels NFT.
Okay, I've got the Blood Vessels stuff.
Excellent. And then at Kongregate. Yeah. And I'll send you the links for the YouTube videos.
Yes, I will include that. So if you're listening to the podcast or watching the video, definitely check that out. I'm going to check that out after we finish recording this episode, because that sounds really awesome. Fantastic. All right, Rex, let's get into some sort of, I want to say tokenomics, but that's the wrong word. Like with a lot of NFT games and NFTs, right? One of the issues is I buy this awesome, beautiful vampire, and then I just died. I'm just in it for the art. I don't play the game. I don't interact. Is that okay? Like, how do you encourage or incentivize your NFT owners to say, hey, I have this art. It's more than just art. I should actually play this game.
Yeah, yeah. And that's interesting, because I do think we need to build games with the expectation that there's going to be people who want the pieces because they are collectibles, and there's going to be people who want the pieces because they're game pieces. And I think that's an interesting dynamic, and one that'll be interesting when it comes to future sales and trades and things. As people, in the Web 2 world, if I had a League of Legends account full of unlocked stuff, I could sell it to you, but it would be shady. There's a chance I would rip you off, you would rip me off. There's a chance we would rip each other off, and the account would be lost forever. It's weird. But in this world, if your character, like your vampire, has high stats, you can sell that in a way that makes sense. You can give that or trade it. And so if I'm a person who's just into the art, that's fine. But it's possible that my character has stats that another player is interested in, because it might give them an advantage in a competition or something that comes up later. Urging both players to parlay within the Discord is the exciting bit. And I think the place where we can convince gamers to be art collectors and art collectors to be gamers. Like that is, the Discord is where we can show you that. So I'm not really into the game, I'm into the art, but I'm stopping by and, oh, there's a poll. I'll just vote on the poll. And oh, now actually my vampire. Okay, why do people want this? Oh, and the flip is for the gamers, where it's, this is really cool, this is really great, but it could be better, right? I could get a better guy. Oh, actually, there's rarity to this. Oh, well, this person's got it for sale for. Oh, I have to figure out how to. We can figure out how to meld those two. I think we'll be gold.
That's nice.
Yeah, yeah, collectors and gamers.
Yeah, exactly. Like that is the perfect like actual phrase. That should be your Twitter bio right there. One of the things I think getting towards the end here, we've talked about your links as well, is like for someone who's listening to this, a lot of crypto, I think we're like 80% crypto people on this show, 20% normal people. But for the crypto people, how are you guys different from a typical NFT games? There's quite a few out there. There's quite a few being worked on. Like you guys are working on Blood Vessels. Like someone who's listening to this, they're like, okay, what are you guys doing differently? You've talked about really cool stuff, but what's the sort of highlight for your typical NFT crypto gamer?
Yeah, it's something entirely new. It is a Discord-based game rather than an interface. So we're not making grand promises about MMO or anything huge. It's something tangible and something within this small space that can be engaged with. I think the genuineness of the project is something I've been trying to help get across, the excitement, the real excitement that the people behind the project have when it comes to bringing it out and showing off what is possible and trying to get a fire lit around how this could be cool, like how we can adopt it in ways that I think will be more approachable, not just to crypto people, that will be light to someone who wants that experience or wants that safety in owning their digital goods and getting to experience those things, or not getting their stuff removed and their game disappears. So just trying to build that trust, trying, like you said, convincing people that there's fun here, not because there's money to be made necessarily, but there's fun here because you want to be here. You're here. If you build it, they will come. And we're trying that strategy. We're trying to build this thing. We're trying to build something that we hope will be interesting. It's possible that vampires and crypto are maybe still trying to figure each other out, but we'll figure it out. We'll push on it. And persistence is key. You have to play with new things. I think it's very easy for people to get stung once bit, twice shy.
Yes,
it's very
yes.
easy to have one bad experience or see one news story and point to it and be like, see, that's why. But I think it's worth it to keep digging to find the gold, to find the silver lining. And I'm hoping Blood Vessels is a chance to show an interesting community project. This isn't like a huge project, but it will be once the community shows, like, lights up inside of it like a lantern. I'm kind of rambling now, but yeah.
Not at all. Should we have, or listeners and viewers have the expectation that if Blood Vessels is successful, is Kongregate going to move into more NFT crypto games, or this is just a one and done thing?
Yeah, I think Kongregate is in it for a long run. So Blood Vessels is just the tip of the spear. Like I said, when it came to piercing that kind of veil between gaming and crypto, I'm hoping Blood Vessels is the tip of the spear, but there's a lot of cool things on the horizon for what we're planning at Kongregate. And like, that's all I can say right now, but there's some really cool stuff happening.
Nice. Rex, I always like to end off the show. People always like to look into the future. We're in October, right? 2023 is next year. And as, again, because there are lots of cool things, you maybe can't talk about some of them, but roughly speaking, people who are going to mint and get involved in this project, like decided, I'm going to join the Discord, enjoy this experience. What should they be looking forward to in the next 6 to 9 months?
Yeah, wow, 6 to 9 months. Definitely more. So as we lead up to the drop, I want to get this demo going on. There's a chance that the narrative story comes a little bit after the drop, but then it is going to allow us to just continue adding stories. So once the narrative gameplay stuff is up, I'm excited for new mechanics. There are attributes that are part of your Blood Vessels vampire that we didn't touch on that go beyond your strength, willpower. There is a hunger mechanic, so how hungry your vampire gets. There's health and hunger, so we want to create a more robust combat, something that players can actually go toe-to-toe with each other with. And then there's mutations, which are the vampire's secret powers, right? And getting those all active within the Discord. And then the next big step is going to be figuring out and releasing a way to upgrade your vampires, actually figuring out how to make them better through experiences. How do we make that process of burning your vamp, giving you a new one, or doing something else? How do we make that an interesting, cool thing for this little game, but actually reward you for the time you're putting into it? And then finally, tools for players, trying to figure out ways to help create inroads for the community that are vampire holders, people who have an NFT, to create stories to share with each other through tools, through the Discord, so that if you're really into the game and you want to keep giving in, or you want to keep giving to it, and you want to create a piece of the community, it's easy for you. And so that's the stuff that we're excited about.
That's lots of cool stuff. I'm really looking forward to it as well. Rex, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything you want to end off with? Anything you want to plug that we haven't plugged already when it comes to Blood Vessels? I think you've mentioned, oh God, tons and tons of stuff already. We've talked about the mint date. We've talked about the social links as well. Final words of vampire wisdom for our audience.
Ooh, I'll repeat the mint date one more time. It's going to be October 26th. The first sale will be 250 vampires with some pretty exclusive fun things as part of that. Yeah, October 26th. You can check us out on Twitter. Please check out the Discord. Come say hi. Participate in Seeing Red. Check out some of the videos we have. Yeah. And vampire advice, I'd say stay out of the sun and keep your heart safe. If that makes sense.
Fantastic. Oh, that is the best place to end off today's episode. Everyone, please check out Blood Vessels. Like I am guilty. I've just looked at the website. I have not joined the Discord yet, but that's what I'm going to do. I've already marked the mint date on my calendar as well. Hopefully I'll get a chance. I've missed so many mint dates for other stuff. Got to be more rigorous when it comes to that. So follow Blood Vessels, follow Congregate, check them out, and hopefully we can get Rex on next year sometime to say, oh my god, Blood Vessels is keeping me so busy. I'm sleeping 2 hours a day. Oh, please
Where are we at
rescue
now?
me. Yeah, where you're at now. There you go. All right, Rex, thank you very much, and we will hopefully talk to you next year sometime.
Yeah, this was a blast. Thank you so much for having me on.